If you're dealing with discomfort with everyday type sounds and visuals, largely via what's called an external locus of control, which means relying on the world around you to change in order to be okay, it will almost always lead to more suffering over time. Because yes, you might block a sound, you might get someone to stop eating around you, you might be able to leave the room. But if your well-being depends on these options, it will result in you being more powerless over time. And that's because what happens in the world is largely out of our control. Additionally, if we depend heavily upon external control, it often means we're not addressing deeper reasons for why our nervous system is so reactive in the first place. Examples of deeper reasons include overcommitment, codependency, unresolved trauma, shame, poor self-care, and there are many more. In this powerless position, our nervous system becomes more vigilant, more guarded, and ironically makes us more vulnerable to being triggered and forming more triggers. Therefore, in order to get to a better place with misophonia, many people have to work on growing their internal locus of control. That means developing the ability to do things like self-soothing, down-regulating, staying connected to your body, and releasing emotions versus repressing them. Now I want to give two caveats. Caveat number one is that kids are reliant on an emotionally supportive environment in order to develop an internal locus of control. For kids, regulation is developed through co-regulation with a supportive and attuned caregiver. If a kid is constantly overwhelmed and undersupported, internal regulation strategies won't work or stick. Caveat number two is the more disconnected you are from your body, the less likely you are to benefit from internal regulation strategies. And that's because if you can't feel your body, other than when your emotions are really big, then things like breath work and grounding strategies are likely to feel as though they don't do anything or they don't work. So sometimes embodiment work needs to happen first. Ultimately, with misophonia, we want to have both external and internal strategies on our menu. It's not either or, it's both and. External options might include things like taking breaks from meetings or the classroom, asking someone not to chew gum during your time together, choosing seating strategically, and using earpieces to lower background noise. Internal options might include things like finding your center with your breath, intentionally softening the jaw and shoulders, talking to yourself in a compassionate, empowered way, allowing sensations to move through instead of bracing against them, and practicing sleep hygiene and other forms of self-care to widen your window of tolerance. External regulation tools aren't necessarily bad. It's just that if they're the only tools you have, then your nervous system won't learn that you can handle discomfort and will keep using fight-flight to keep you safe from trigger sounds or visuals. Additionally, if we're reliant solely on external means, it naturally means our world gets smaller and smaller and our needs get met less and less. And this is the catch-22 and snowball that makes misophonia more and more of a problem. Developing an internal locus of control is not just important for misophonia. Research shows that it correlates with lower depression, greater belonging, higher income, and more fulfilling relationships. You can't control the world, but you can build the capacity to stay centered inside it. And that agency changes your experience of everything for the better. You can learn a lot more about what I talked about here in my book, Demystifying Misophonia.